You you are here to learn about e-cigarette vape pens, but it is also important to understand the history of the tobacco industry since many of the strategies have been used by e-cigarette vape pen manufacturers were those used and are still being used by cigarette companies. New focus on increasing nicotine use with new and popular nicotine delivery devices, including e-cigarette vape pens. Tobacco smoking causes around 48,000 deaths each year, yet people still decide to smoke, in part because the tobacco industry has become very good at hiding the risk of cigarette smoking. Let's take a look at the historical context and some of the tobacco industry's tactics. Cigarettes, tobacco leaves rolled in thin paper and smoked have been around since the 9th century, originating in North Central and South America. Cigarettes gained international popularity in the 1800s as global exploration began. They became widespread in the 20th century. As tobacco became more common across the globe, new technology made cigarette production easier. In the 1880s, a cigarette making machine was invented, allowing the tobacco industry to begin and to grow. And that you see that on the left side. As production increased, so did consumption of cigarettes in the US. Cigarettes use often fluctuated during the major national events, and that's seen on the right. Once cigarettes became easier to make, tobacco companies began to develop and expand on the cigarette market. Many of these original companies are still around today. These companies use advertising strategies to convince people to become their customers. What do you notice about these ads? Doctors making strong claims about the lack of risk associated with cigarettes. Figure 2 cites a specific number of physicians who agree with the claim Luckies are less irritating. Many tobacco companies tried to convince their customers that cigarettes were not only harmless but good for your health. How believable are these ads to you? In reality, from the late 1920s to the 1930s, tobacco companies hired actors to play doctors and dentists to mislead the public. Just like the doctors in these ads, the information about cigarettes could be misleading or even completely made up. Based on what you know about how tobacco affects health, where would you guess these facts came from? Tobacco companies. Most of our early research on tobacco wasn't done by universities, hospitals, or the government. It was actually done by the Tobacco Institute, which was funded by the tobacco industry. In the mid 1930s, a new advertising campaign for Philip Morris referred to research conducted by physicians. In one ad, the company claimed that after prescribing Philip Morris brand cigarettes to patients with irritated throats, every case of irritation cleared completely or definitely improved. After the launch of this series of advertisements, along with other referring to proof of superiority, Philip Morris became a major cigarette brand in this example, and many others misleading the public really paid off for tobacco companies. What are your thoughts about this message? Early in the history of cigarettes, it was considered unladylike to smoke in public until tobacco companies realized that marketing to women would get them new customers. Women then became the focus of new campaigns. These campaigns often relied on sexist messages to convince women to smoke to be modern, fashionable, thin, and smart. Do you think ads like this would be effective today? Men are not spared from targets of ad campaigns. Numerous ad campaigns used hypermasculine imagery to try and get the public to associate smoking with the tough guy persona. Well, celebrities were even paid to endorse different tobacco brands to make them more appealing. Men in cigarette ads were made to seem mainly cool and attractive to women. Let's look at some examples of cigarette ads that may not be intended for adults only. What do you think the industry's message was in the cartoon and ads? Who do you think found this cartoon and these ads most appealing? Most appealing to kids and teens trying to hook customers at a young age, trying to have young people connect to their brands early in life. Let's look at actual quotes from the tobacco industry. Today, teenager Today's teenager is tomorrow's potential regular customer, and the overwhelming majority of smokers first begin to smoke while still in their teens. The base of the high school is their targeted group. Okay, so early tobacco advertising was really effective. Smoking became more and more common. Smoking rates climbed until 1964, the year the Surgeon General published a report that explained many of the harmful effects of smoking. Up until this point, the public suspected smoking may have been bad for your health, and this groundbreaking report confirmed it. After the release of the report, trends in smoking began to decrease. Why do you think this report had such a large impact? Well, the report was impactful because the tobacco industry manipulation was exposed and accurate information from the trusted sources was finally available for the public. The decline in smoking rates didn't happen overnight. Many public policies were put into place to discourage people from smoking. In 1965, the Federal Cigarette Labeling and Advertising Act required large warning labels on cigarette cartoons. In 1971, the Surgeon General proposed a smoking ban in public places. In 1998, advertising targeted to young people was prohibited, and higher taxes were placed on cigarettes to discourage use. These kinds of policies help to fight back against the big advertising push from large tobacco companies. Tobacco control policies were put into place not only to encourage people who smoked to quit, but also to protect those who do not smoke. The truth about the dangers of secondhand smoke became more well known because of ads like this. Secondhand smoke is smoke that is exhaled or comes from tobacco burning products. This smoke can cause danger for anyone who inhales the smoke, even if they are not the ones smoking. Even pets can be harmed from secondhand smoke. Since 1964, about 2,500,000 non-smokers had died from health problems caused by exposure to secondhand smoke, and many others face asthma and heart attacks. Why do you think these types of messages are effective? In 1999, the U.S. Department of Justice filed suit against the cigarette companies for violating civil provisions of the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act and other laws. The same law was used in 1970 to prosecute the mafia and others who engaged in organized crime. In 2006, U.S. District Court Judge Gladys Kessler convicted the big cigarette companies and their trade and scientific groups of forming an illegal racketeering enterprise to defraud the American people. The court ordered the cigarette companies to publish corrective statements telling the public that they had lied about the dangers of smoking, secondhand smoke, and nicotine addiction. The court also prohibited them from challenging the evidence that these are true statements, which is why the companies no longer do so. Judge the Judge Kessler stated the evidence in this case clearly establishes the defendants have not ceased engaging in unlawful activity. Their continuing conduct misleads consumers in order to maximize defendants' revenues by recruiting new smokers, the majority of whom are under the age of 18, preventing current smokers from quitting and thereby sustaining the industry. Do you think it was fair to treat tobacco executives like mob bosses? Why or why not? This may seem like ancient history, but as you may have noticed, tobacco companies aren't the type to give up easily. Tobacco industry has created new marketing techniques to bring in new cigarette smoking consumers, and the industry has developed new products and advertised them using their old ad techniques. In our following lessons and activities, you'll explore new and recycled strategies that are being used by tobacco companies today.